In this video, we're going to be doing non-metallic metal silver with just 3 colours in about 5 minutes, and the majority of it is dry brushing. It's a super beginner-friendly technique, and it's a really good way to get an effective result on a model. So in this tutorial, we're going to be painting this guy's bow, which definitely won't show up quite easily on camera. Essentially though, silver non-metallic metal. Non-metallic metal is a subject that a lot of people are afraid of, perhaps incorrectly, because basically it's just like any other technique, you're trying to put paint in the right place. So we have broken this down into a couple of beginner-friendly steps, but it's a great one. You can do it in more steps and do it advanced, glaze it a bit more, layer a bit more, edge highlight it. It is suitable for any level of painting, but we're just starting it off in a really approachable fashion, which is with dry brushing and stippling and kind of softly touching up areas in a more delicate way than we've done before. It only takes about 5 to 10 minutes. You're only using 3 paints. Really forgiving. So I hope you like this. If you'd like to see us do other colours of non-metallic metal, let us know below. And also if you'd like to see the black armour from this guy or the base from this guy, we'll be linking those as well. All of this is fantastically achievable by anyone. Really good for getting an army on the tabletop fast. But as I've said multiple times, the techniques, you can just slow them down, take more time, add more detailing or weathering or anything like that, and really have something to be proud of at the end. So however long it takes is up to you, and if you put more time in, you'll get something more fancy, and if you put less time in, you'll get it on the tabletop faster. Right, so it's going to be super simple. Eshin grey, grey cere and ceramite white. So I'm using a medium. I'm going to transition fairly swiftly to the small in all likelihood. Now what we're doing here is I'm going to be imagining where the light would be hitting this bow. So hitting it from this angle, and then I think the bottom would be, on the side would be lighter than the top, trying to get some contrast here as well. If this bit's light, I want this bit to be dark either side of the rise. Don't worry that this looks rough. I mean, we're not going for some Andy Warhol gorgeous level entire thing top to bottom in flawless gold metallic metal here. We're going for a rough and ready approach, so this is just a foundation that we're building, and it doesn't have to be too specific. Hit this shoulder pad while we're here. A little bit heavy, but it'll do for the purposes of what we're trying to achieve, because we are going to be glazing things down. If anything you hit too much, don't worry about it. You can fix that in the following steps. And this loincloth, there we go. Okay, so I'm now going to take some of our paints and pop them carefully on the palette, because at this point I want to have the ability to draw them into each other a little. So that's grey cere. Here's the Eshin grey. And I'm going to jump to the small also. Make sure that that's not dry. It's really important that we do not have much leaving the brush at this point. Again, concentrating on those areas where the light should be hitting, or we've decided that the light is hitting. And then also with this, I'll be doing some traditional dry brushing to catch the edges. Really got a very small amount on the brush. If it's even a little bit wet, as long as there's not too much coming off, that doesn't matter too much. It's going to dilute your paint, stop it from looking too opaque, which is a bonus at this stage. If you are doing that, just like I made a mistake there, you have to be careful not to get streaking anywhere, so you're probably better off just proceeding a little bit slower, taking a bit more care. Also hit this armoured loincloth area. Then we can step onto our next paint. So a little bit more of the grace here. Going pretty carefully now. Testing it elsewhere before we take it to the model, and trying to hit our edges and our lighter areas specifically. Everything we're doing here is either going to be super fast, in which case it's not going to be the fanciest effect in the world, or it's a foundation for us to hit with additional stages with glazing with a brush or edge highlighting or something like that. So don't worry if it's not the fanciest painting you've ever done in the world. That's not the idea. And even if it doesn't look great at this stage, don't get wrapped up in that. Don't let it affect your overall feeling about the model. It's kind of to be expected, and we're looking to build up these stages anyway. And there's a couple of very important finishing steps that just transition it massively into being a much more high-end looking technique than we've got currently. You can kind of see on this knee here that I've been cleaning my brush on how subtly you can get stuff if you if you hit it by accident. Okay, now I'm going to start adding our white. Mine is a little bit sorry for itself, but it's still functional. So again, I'm testing it on an area that I don't care about. That could be a thumb though. Hitting these scales. And getting the edges. So you can probably see the areas that we're going to be concentrating on coming to light a bit more now, being made more obvious, and we can move forwards to the pure white step. Okay, so we can really start seeing things beginning to take shape here. When we're tilting it, it looks a little bit like it's lit from one direction. That's great. We're going to softly, carefully hit the edges with the white now, and then we're going to bring in the brush, and that'll help push our contrast and that type of stuff. So taking real care here, don't want anything overly saturated, don't want anything looking unsubtle. Particularly this area of the bow, I feel that I've neglected a little bit in terms of highlights. So just start off there with the lighting. The first section you start with is always going to be the area that gets the most. It's also the area that's the most likely to have mistakes on it, so it's worth working around. Obviously, it would be better if you were using a happy white paint rather than a sad neglected one, but we work with what we've got. So I'm going super soft now. Probably here there's an absence of like aggressive brush sounds, hitting those edges. Hitting them all from the angle where they're most likely to pick up on the paint. Right, we're good, so we can move on to the brush work now. Okay, so our first step here is to use, I'm using a black paint, but you could use a black wash, they're slightly more forgiving. I feel like 950 is particularly popular because it doesn't mess you around. So it's really important where we end our strokes for this. We're trying to end them in the place where we want the most paint. We want to make sure that we don't have too much on the brush, so above and below the areas where we're wanting it the brightest, ending our strokes in the deepest recesses. You could use a little bit of blue mixed in with this if you wanted to make it look kind of blue steely. Super quick. You don't even need to be too delicate, as long as your paint is not too thick, or you've not diluted it enough. You don't need to be hugely careful here. We're letting the texture of the bow kind of do the work for us, and we do have the edge highlights and the white stages to pick things up or fix any mistakes we've made. Trying to give the rivets and physical details a little bit of attention too. And once you've done the first stages, you can use a mix that is a lot more dark in the recesses if you wish. Just use my finger there to pick off the bit of the rivet. Obviously you can take much more care at this stage than I am if you wish, or you can take less if you're just looking to give a quick impression of this for kind of get it on the tabletop fast painting. It's up to you. As long as you set your expectations beforehand, you can paint it to whatever level you like without getting disappointed or feeling you could have achieved more, or you spent too long on it on the other side of things. Okay, so we can really see that starting to take shape now. It's pretty quick as well. I think people often believe that if areas are smaller, they're going to make painting harder, but sometimes they can make painting easier. Like, you don't have to do anything flawless when you're working in a tiny space like this on an army level. It's just not realistic. Okay, so that's the beginning of it. Now let's come in with the white. Okay, so we've got some white on our palette. You don't want it too dilute for this. It's quite a fine line with edge highlighting. You could also skip this stage. If you just want to do it all with dry brushing, you could do something nearly as good, like 4 times as fast, but this is something that I want to show here, and it really does help things pop just to hit those edges. Gonna hit upwards facing sections particularly, and also sections that are on the edge of our brightest parts of the bow. Corners, tops of rivets, they're all going to get some attention as well. You could be doing this with a super light grey and then save white for dots. That would be legit too. Make sure that you turn your model to make it the easiest possible to catch it at the angle you want. And as I mentioned before, with brush strokes around rivets and things, try to make it so your highlight doesn't stop just because a rivet got in your way, because it's fairly obvious when you look at a model that that's the result of a human being there. It doesn't look as natural. Right, so that's looking pretty good. Apart from that last bit. What I'm going to do now is further dilute the white. and do some really careful washes, ending on our edge highlights because they're the whitest bits already. And I'm going to concentrate these in the areas that we want to be the lightest. Obviously, if you want to take more time than I am on these, you will achieve a far smoother result. It's just up to you how you want to approach the model. You could also do it with little lines or something if you're trying to make it look particularly shiny. That can be a faster way to do things, and particularly for tabletop minis, it gives you a nice kind of detail in the contrast. It's just starting to build it up a little bit more now. You could be buffing this with the smaller, extra small dry brush too. That's a nice way of going about this. In any of those areas that we didn't get light enough with our dry brushing, as long as we're careful, we might be able to catch or fix mistakes with the glazing stages like we're on now. Okay, with that done, all that's left is a final, very delicate but more harsh white edge highlight to the areas where we particularly want to bring attention to the light. Top of the rivets. And of course this will look a lot neater when the sections it's next to are not covered in like overspill from our painting. Alright, that's pretty much it. So that is non-metallic metal made easy with dry brushing. Okay, so we are done. I actually went in and nipped a little bit more white in a couple of the edges, and then I've blacked out the bow around it just to show exactly what it is that we're looking to achieve, because it's so much easier to tell what we've done when the section next to it is not covered in overspill. That is it. It's a super efficient technique, looks pretty solid. If these guys were dark, you can add blue into that or something, but if these were just a dark black, dark green, whatever, having a point of interest next to it that isn't another color is really useful. If you did want to turn these more blue, one really fast way to do it is just to get a blue wash or glaze. If it's a glaze, dilute it a lot because they're potent, and then just push it into the recesses anywhere you've got black basically, or take it all over the entire thing in a very thin manner and then repeat your white on top of it. So there you go. Rough and ready, dry brushing non-metallic metal, finishing with 2 stages of brushwork. Okay, so that's turned out fantastically. We have our guy here, who probably won't show up particularly well on the camera because he's tiny, but the sections look really, really effective. It jumps out, and particularly against a dark background, like I've said a couple of times, it's really, really punchy. You can take these concepts and theories and you can apply them on a shoulder pad, you can apply them to a faceplate, a sword, anything like that. We will cover those in the future, but for now, take the ideas we've had and you can apply them kind of universally wherever you like. It's just about picking your light sources and where you want it to be most deeply recessed and dark, and where you want those little like pinpricks of reflections and highlights to be. If you like the video, please like it and please subscribe for more future content. Let us know below if there's anything in particular you'd like to see us painting, if you're really keen to see the gold, or if you want to see a blue steel version, or a warmer one, or some reflections or copper or anything like that. We're happy to show you whatever it is that people request the most. If you see any requests below from people that you'd like, give them a like and upvote, because the ones that appear higher up the list are the ones that we're the most likely to get to fast in the future. Don't forget to check out the black armor tutorial for the Stormcast that went on top of it, and also the limestone basing tutorial, which all goes together to make this model look super effective in no time at all. Thanks very much.